Greetings, everybody. Thanks for joining me again for another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. This is the new release video for April 18th, 2025. April 18th? Yeah, that's about right. So thanks everybody for being so supportive with the record store day we had last week. It was another big success. It was about the same size as last year's record store day, which had a Taylor Swift new release that day and a Pearl Jam, not only a new release, but a record store day release coming out at that time as well. So that was a pretty big event. And for this one to be on par with that, without those two powerhouses. Now, granted, there was a Taylor Swift 7-inch, which was popular, and we had like maybe 40 copies of those. But overall, I think more of the weight of the day was put on other releases, and it kind of was interesting the way that sort of spread out. A couple of things. We had a lot of requests for pop things. Everything from Gracie Abrams to Charlie XCX. Now, I've heard that the Charlie XCX, the 7-inch that she does with Billie Eilish, Guess, and then also the full length, which was a repressing of Number One Angel. Those are probably going to be available again soon. So if you missed out, there's supposedly more of those coming. What other news did I have to share? Well, I think there are other things that may pop up here and there. It sometimes happens after record store day, and then sometimes things don't. So it could really go either way. One thing I don't think we're going to see more of is the Wicked soundtrack, which was also very heavily wanted, is now selling for about $400 online, even though it was a $60 item in the store. So this is why being early is sometimes important to people. I think the first person that bought it in our line planned to keep it and not flip that, but that is what the value of those things can go to. And there were some that I saw listed for like $600 and $700. So is that opportunistic? It really sort of is kind of the worst of the record store day event. But in any case, for me, it was about the music, and always is so, and about the love of the vinyl community and the people that are my most precious customers, which I think are some of the greatest people that I've ever known. And that's saying something because I'm not a young person. So let's see. I think what I'm going to do today is go through the new releases for the week first, then go through some of the things that we still have a few copies left here and there from Record Store Day. Maybe I didn't show them in previous videos, or I want to talk about it a little bit more instead of doing a recommends this week. So in an effort to kind of keep things moving along. So with that being said, let's get started. First thing this week, there's a new Neil Young called Coastal. This is basically a tour record. This is the soundtrack, 11 songs from the solo tour of 2023. Clear vinyl record with a poster, this version of it. So it's not Crazy Horse, it's Neil solo, but I do think he must have had some sort of, I don't know if he had backing or whatever. I thought there was sort of a band with him on that. So anyway, yeah, I think they were called like the Chrome Hearts or something like that. So I don't know. Supposedly, Neil Young fans out there could tell me more. I sort of like, and there's so many Neil Young releases too. That's the other thing. I do like to kind of start the videos usually with showing some box set things. So this one is a King Gizzard release. Excuse me. Live in Austin, 2024. Love the cover art. So that would have been for the Petro Dragonic era. So kind of when they were doing more of a metal tour this year, they're doing orchestral stuff. So it's always different. These come with custom photo sleeves, a double-sided poster, 22 tracks on 4 splatter LPs, hand number edition. not bad. It's around 80 bucks, 85 bucks. So, and it's in a little box. So if you like that era, I mean, I don't know. I think King Gizzard fans seem to be sort of completist in a way. There's quite a few records. They have, what, 26, 27 studio albums. And they've got a new one coming out very shortly. I think it's an orchestral record. So the other one that I see from King Gizzard is the Acoustic Gizzard Volume 2, live in San Diego 2024, triple gatefold color vinyl. Look, to some of my customers who are into like prog rock type stuff, you might be interested in getting into this band, because there's definitely a sense of that, not only in the artwork and the way they sort of record. I mean, they're an amazing band, but they sort of do like a lot of jammy and extended passages, but they do get pretty psychedelic too. So depending on which album, but they do it all. They can do, and their stuff's great. You can do anything from, well, they do like a typical sort of jam rock, but then they'll do like soul, some kind of funky stuff, heavy metal, sort of kind of like orchestral rock, acoustic stuff, electronic stuff, hip hop stuff. I mean, it's all over the map. So I think it's about the whole King Gizzard experience, really. So, all right. Enough of me talking them up. Let me grab the next set of stuff here. This came as kind of a surprise, and I don't know if there's going to be very many of these made. But if you missed this, and if you pay attention to my videos, or you come look at stuff in the store once in a while, you may see something that you're like, oh my God, I didn't know that was out again. So about a year and a half ago, or was it maybe about a year ago, I think it was on the last Record Store Day 2024, this was released, and it was so heavily wanted that it sold out that day, and here it is like a year later, they're putting it out regular. It's the South Park concert, the 25th anniversary, with Towley on the cover. Yes, the infamous Towley. The reason for this exciting is all of the collaborators on here. Primus and Ween are the two main sort of artists listed. Also, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson of Rush. And they're basically doing the South Park songs, which I probably shouldn't read even on the video, but Uncle Effer is one of my favorites. So anyway, South Park soundtrack back in print. Don't let people tell you that nothing good, that good things don't happen somehow. All right. Sing Out. This is Jerry Garcia, Bob Weir, Mickey Hart, Billy Kreutzmann, and John Kahn at the Berkeley Community Theater, April 25th, 1981, presented by the Owsley Foundation. I don't think that there's a ton of these floating around. This is sort of an ancillary. Is that how you say that? It's still early. Sort of ancillary Grateful Dead record. It does feature Deep Ellum Blues, Dark Hollow, Jackaro, Monkey and the Engineer, Friend of the Devil, El Paso, Oh Babe, It Ain't No Lie, On the Road Again, and Oh Boy. So a little bit different than like a Dead record, but the Dead is on it. So, all right. A couple of Tom Petty reissues this week. His first album, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and the second one, You're Gonna Get It. Those were early records that I believe he did for Warner Brothers originally, before he sort of started changing labels or going other places. But these were, I think they were Warner Brothers. These are mastered for vinyl from the original master analog tapes by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grunman Mastering in 2011. So these are sort of repressings of the 2011 masters, but Bellman does a great job, and basically Geffen has taken over the rights of these. I think that Universal has sort of been picking up the Petty catalog. So a couple of reissues there. All right, here's some new stuff this week. New Melvins album called Thunderball. Sort of always heavy stuff a little bit. Smoke is a color variation. So I guess it's on Smoke vinyl. Maybe your turntable will start smoking if you play it. I don't know. And if it does, get him some nicotine patches or something. I don't know. So new Melvins record. Buzz. Buzz and Company. Let's see. Also, Tunde Adebimpe. Say that 3 times fast. He's the lead singer, one of the lead singers of TV on the Radio, one of the main songwriters. This is his new solo record, his solo debut. And this is the loser edition on color vinyl. I don't know what this means for TV on the Radio. They've sort of been on hiatus already for a few years, and apparently that's going to continue since Tunde's doing solo work now. It's been a while though. Anyway, great band. Rhiannon Giddens and Justin Robinson, and she does great sort of Americana, folk, Southern folk, rock, blues, R&B kind of stuff. This is fiddle and banjo music of North Carolina, and it's called What Did the Blackbird Say to the Crow? And it looks like it's pretty rootsy. I mean, they're standing out on the dirt road here, playing just a duo playing. And she's an amazing, amazing musician and singer. And a lot of these are sort of like traditional Little Brown Jug, Pumpkin Pie, Brown's Dream, Molly Put the Kettle On, John Henry. Another American artist of note, Childish Gambino, and his new, what he says is going to be his last record under the name Childish Gambino. We'll see what Donald Glover does next, but Bando Stone and the New World is the name of this. The last one I got was called Ada Vista, which was sort of a remake or reimagining of a final version of one of his previous albums that came out a couple years prior, and we still have that. I've noticed that his stuff isn't really flying off the shelves the way it was like during the pandemic. So I guess that meant that the kids, I don't know, they went back to work and the parents weren't giving them the money to buy them as much. I don't know how that works, but I think he still has fans. So, okay. A new release. This actually came out last Friday, but it showed up a little bit late. Bootsy Collins. And this is his new record, Album of the Year, #1 Funketeer. And this has a lot of guest appearances on it, too. I think features songs like Fishnets, Chicken and Fries, I can't say it. Boot Dilute. It's so early. I'm not even going to try it. JB's Tribute, Pastor P. It's great artwork. If you're into like Funkadelic, Parliament stuff, really famous musician. He has appeared on so many other people's records too. Most recently that I remember was on the Silk Sonic album with Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. He sort of did the interstitial introductions and whatever, but great player. And this features people like Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube. So we're getting a little hip-hoppy there too, but a great soul record been reissued on Music on Vinyl. Irma Thomas, take a look. And this is the soul queen of New Orleans, includes anyone who knows what love is will understand. And apparently that song was used a lot in the series Black Mirror. But yeah, these are fairly limited, I think. Also songs, Teasing But You're Pleasing, I Haven't Got Time to Cry, You're Gonna Miss a Good Thing, or You Don't Miss a Good Thing Until It's Gone. And it's starting to get to me now. He's my guy. Yeah, take a look from Irma Thomas. She actually just put out a new record with Galactic last week. A Galactic sort of a jammy like jazz group, jazz funk group, and she's like 84 years old, so good for her. Okay, so a couple of there's a lot of jazz this week. I feel like they put out a fair amount of jazz for Record Store Day, and then there weren't that many jazz releases last week, so they kind of bumped them all to this week. First one, Musings of Miles by Miles Davis. This is, 1955, I believe. This is on the OJC Original Jazz Classics series label, and this was remastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio, pressed at RTI. Probably sounds great, probably better than most of the original copies of that record. Another one, Miles Davis related, same label, Walkin', and this is Miles Davis Quartet. Miles Davis All Stars. That's what it's listed as. Features J.J. Johnson, Lucky Thompson, David Schildkraut, Horace Silver, Percy Heath, and Kenny Clark. This is also a Kevin Gray RTI pressing there. So, all right. So usually the OJCs come in twos. Now, so do the Blue Note Tone Poets and the regular Blue Note Classics. So we've got two Blue Note Classics this week. Don Pullen with Gary Peacock and Tony Williams. And so this is a little bit later, more fusion-y, probably a little more sort of out there in a way. But well, let's see, what year did this come out? It sort of depends on the year. Oh, this is 1989. So this is shouldn't be quite as crazy as what these guys would have been in the early 70s or whatever, but Gary Peacock and Tony Williams on there with Don Pullen. Another one from Blue Note sort of later is a Tony Williams record, and this one's called Civilization. And this was produced by Tony Williams and David Cole, which I believe is the same guy who was in Clavillis and Cole, who would have been a member of CNC Music Factory. So this was a little later too, 1987. So a little bit before the CNC Music Factory. Mulgrew Miller and Wallace Roney are on this record. Sharnette Moffett and Billy Pierce. So Tony Williams. So those are like a couple of late 80s Blue Notes. Those are actually pretty rare. I don't think when they were released, they were probably sold a little bit on vinyl, but probably not much, and then you probably never saw them again. So that's cool if they put those out. Let's see, Duke Ellington and Johnny Hodges. This is called Side by Side. This is on the Verve Acoustic Sounds label and done by Quality Record Pressings in Kansas. They do amazing work, and this is a gatefold vinyl here. I'm sure that this probably looks and sounds better than the original pressings of this two at this point. And what year? 1959, originally on Verve Records. So, and then you get another jazz release. There's a lot of jazz, like I said. Chick Corea and Piano Improvisations Volume 1. This is on the ECM Luminescence series, and that's a more sort of sporadic series than the Blue Notes or something like that. Cut from the original masters, newly designed packaging with the original artwork. And there's a picture of Chick, rest in peace. He died a little too young, I would venture to say. This was in 1971, so kind of the era that Chick was really becoming known. And then Adrian Young, and this is a record from him. He's been doing this series. This one's called Something About April 3. It's kind of hard to see the cover here, so if I've got the CD around here. Anyway, they're sort of like, that's all you get from the cover. But the record you've been holding has been restored recorded to magnetic tape and mastered for hi-fi stereo. All music recorded and mixed by Adrian Young at Linear Labs. This is Young completes his psychedelic soul trilogy with Something About April 3, a sonic world fueled by a 30-piece orchestra, analog synthesizers, drum breaks, and enchanting Brazilian melodies. So he's the guy that does the whole Jazz is Dead series that's been pretty popular with certain listeners. Let's see, there's a few more here. More jazz, Pharoah Sanders, and Love is Us All. Love is Us All. Love in Us All, sorry. This is a Verve by Request series, so this was pressed at Third Man. This is a gatefold vinyl. Pharoah Sanders is definitely a little more out there, psychedelic wise. Each side is one 20-minute track, Love is Everywhere and To John. So I think I had an original one of these recently, and I hadn't really seen it that much, but sometimes those things come in. Also, Bernie Maupin, and this is another Verve by Request, Slow Traffic to the Right. Another, what year was this? I need my bifocals. 1977. So this is it, the long-awaited statement by America's premier contemporary reed player. He contributed powerfully to the development of jazz in the historic Bitches Brew sessions with Miles Davis. So, okay, 77. Let's see, something not jazz-related, The Wonder Years and The Greatest Generation. Another reissue of this sort of punk pop classic. This is and a lot of sort of Americana stuff in there. Was released on Hopeless Records. This is probably their biggest selling record, and they keep reissuing it on different colors of vinyl. This one, I believe, is olive green, and So the last track is called "I Just Want to Sell Out My Funeral," and another record this week to kind of end the record's new releases is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard back again, live at Bonnaroo 22. This one we've had before in different pressings. This is a double LP pressed on red and yellow color vinyl, so it's just a different color. But 22, we were in the heart of a pandemic, or beginning to come out of one at that point. So, Anyway, so there you have it. Now, there are other things here. Hold on. There's some CDs, and some of them are coming on. Well, this one anyway is coming on vinyl. This is Julian Baker and Taurus, and Julian is one of the members of Boy Genius, and Lucy Dacus just released her record recently. This features stuff that Julian and the artist Taurus, another female, did together. So it's been a while since Julian had kind of a solo record, because she keeps doing these collaborations, but she obviously must enjoy it, and she's a great singer-songwriter, and I think she's like one of Boy Genius's sort of secret weapons, because she's really like probably one of the, Phoebe Bridgers gets so much attention, but Julian is really just a fine writer in her own right. Ali Venables, Money and Power. This is another blues artist. This features Christone Kingfish Ingram and Shamika Copeland. And this is the Money and Power is the name of Ali. So she's pretty much a blues artist. Florence and the Machine. This came out on vinyl a while ago. Symphony of Lungs, featuring the Jules Buckley and his orchestra at the Royal Albert Hall. Sort of early live Florence. Paul Bley, or Bly, I'm not really sure which way people say that, but Ramblin' is the name of it. Carla's husband, I think he's passed away now too. This is a newly remastered deluxe edition. Relive the timeless brilliance of Paul Bley's 1966 Rome session, where bold improvisation, groundbreaking composition, and heartfelt tribute redefine the art of jazz trio. So there's Paul's record. Yeah, because it was Record Store Day, there's a lot of things that come out on CD afterwards that are not they're Record Store Day related, but I don't know why they don't put them out that day. Probably so people are more drawn to the records. But so some of these things that have come out on CD were Record Store Day records. Charles Mingus, and in Argentina, the Buenos Aires concerts. We've got Kenny Dorham, and this is Blue Bossa in the Bronx, live from the Blue Morocco. Freddie Hubbard's On Fire, and this is live also from the Blue Morocco. A lot of these are done by Zev Feldman, his record company, and Wes Montgomery and Wynton Kelly, and this is Smokin' in Seattle live at the Penthouse. So those are available, jazz ones that are available on CD. Also, Francois Hardy, and this is En Vogue, best of 1962 to 67. So if you're into sort of French pop of the era, and I will not try to pronounce any of these because I did not study French in school. Anyway, so all right, now let me cover some of these Record Store Day things that I think are worthy of mentioning that are still around. And I did want to also give a disclaimer. Last week, I sort of in the video mentioned that Nell Smith, when I was talking about her, I mentioned that she had committed suicide at 17. I was incorrect. She actually died in a car accident. So my apologies to Nell Smith, her family, and anybody else who I seem to, I didn't offend them, but I hope, but that I was incorrect on that statement. It was such a tragic death. Okay, so the first thing I want to show, and I didn't show it beforehand because I was a little worried about how many I got. It was very weird. Elvis Costello was mentioned on the Record Store Day list with this album, The Kings of America, with the Kings of America, live at the Royal Albert Hall, 1987. So this was one of the only, in fact, I think it might have been the only thing on the Record Store Day orders that we could not get from our distributors. I had to specifically go to Third Man Records and request this. Now, why it was on the list, I'm not really sure, when that's kind of not how they have been typically running things. So I reached out to Third Man. I said, they said, how many of the record do you want? I said, I would like this many. They said, okay, we can only send you this many. And I was like, okay, whatever you can send me. So I really didn't get a lot of them, but I did want to start, which is why I didn't really mention it before the video, because I really wanted to make sure I had it for people who really wanted it. This is an amazing, amazing concert documentary of this era of Elvis. This album, King of America, came out this past year in a box set form, and I think the CDs had this concert in it, but there was no vinyl component that I know of for the concert, which is why this was such a big deal, because Third Man got the rights to do this. But it doesn't have a lot of Elvis's hits, granted. It was sort of paying homage to this era. So the songs that people might know here: Brilliant Mistake, Our Little Angel, probably American Without Tears, and then he does a cover of True Love Ways at the end. Now, this is probably one of the most caustic, and I mean caustic by sort of internally fiery and angry eras of Elvis. Declan, he's not really like angry, like hostile angry, but it's like the seething anger of like what America sort of symbolized in an era of what seemed like 80s excess and all that kind of stuff. The main guitarist on this was James Burton, who played in Elvis Presley's bands. So you have that aspect of it. You also have Jim Keltner on drums and Benmont Tench on keyboards. Benmont of Tom Petty's band. You also have T-Bone Walk on guitar and Jerry Sheff on bass. I mean, it's a great, great band. And Elvis has always been, I think, an underrated singer. I think people revere him a lot for his songwriting, but maybe his singing doesn't get quite as much attention. And there are very few singers I know of who can sing like this for entire nights on end or on records like this and make it sound as effortless as he does, because he really does a lot of complex things vocally. And you can kind of get that his influence from his dad, who was also a guy who was sort of a band leader and whatever. So he grew up around that. He's just got a very like bright, loud, clear voice, and it's a very inviting kind of voice. And I think his vocals really shine on this record, as do the band. So if you know the King of America album, you might want to check this out, because, and I only have a couple left, but I did want to kind of make special point to feature that, because it really is a kind of a special recording, and it may be out there on streaming, I'm sure, somewhere, maybe Spotify or something, to check it out. Okay. Alts and Outs, Blue Note Records. This is something I think a lot of people missed, but what this is it's a fascinating collection of alternate and bonus tracks from 6 of the most noteworthy albums in Blue Note history. It features tracks from Cannonball Adderley's Something Else, Grant Green's Idle Moments, Wayne Shorter's Speak No Evil, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers' Moanin', Jimmy Smith's Back at the Chicken Shack, and Sonny Clark's Cool Struttin'. These are session tracks that didn't make it to those albums, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. They're just the bonus tracks, and those are sometimes very hard to find on vinyl without buying a deluxe edition of all of those records. So I'm just making you aware that that is still out there, and we have a few of those left. Brittany Howard, lead singer of Alabama Shakes and live from Austin City Limits. What a performer, what a voice, what a presence. If you like Southern rock kind of stuff mixed with Southern soul, and kind of almost like sort of R&B and hip-hop influences too. This live at Austin City Limits was really an extraordinary performance, and again, vocally on another level, stunning. And it's funny how some of these people may not be, I don't know if they were trained singers or if they went to school for that, or were in choirs or whatever, but man, there's some really great vocalists out there. The Color Field, and I don't think I've shown this yet, Virgins and Philistines. So this is Terry Hall from the Specials and Fun Boy 3, and it's he'd started a new band in the mid 80s. This is sort of a power pop kind of band, very like melodic, catchy, great stuff. So I recommend this highly. It's got songs like Castles in the Air. Cruel Circus is a song about animal cruelty that's really interesting. It's just a great album. And then also he does a cover of Windmills of Your Mind on here, a very nice version. Pushing Up the Daisies. Terry, we lost him. He passed away a couple years ago in his early 60s, and it was just such a shame, because the guy was not only talented but very entertaining and witty and smart. And anyway, Neil Finn and a live sessions at West 54th. And this was a live show that David Byrne did the introduction, and then featured songs from his, I think this was the Try Whistling This era, but also had songs like Don't Dream It's Over, Fall at Your Feet. I think I mentioned these before. I Got You by Split Enz. So it's got stuff from Crowded House, Split Enz, and Neil's solo. So Great selection of songs there. That was done in the mid 90s. Here's one that I didn't mention before, Slow Magic by Jeff Bridges. Yes, the Jeff Bridges, the actor. And this was a solo record. Music is the weed that keeps popping out of the concrete in my life. It just seems to want to come out. That was something that he said. This is from 1978. Look at how young the dude was there. And this album is like very hard to find. So this was done by, I believe it was, oh, well, this is on transparent blue wax pressed at RTI. I wanted to say, I can't remember which label did this. It might be he had it done himself, but anyway. The Jeff Bridges album is still out there. Leve and her Night at the Symphony. I mentioned this, and such an amazing performer. If you're into like kind of like the jazzier side of Norah Jones, this is a really stunning performance, and very like kind of based in like traditional American songbook kind of stuff. But she also has a very strong pop following, and a lot of young people really like her. I mentioned this before, Music of Our Mother Oceans, or Music of Mother Oceans. For Our Mother Ocean, this is the best of. It was a compilation. There were a few albums. This takes songs from the best songs from them. I mentioned some of the people here. Again, I'll mention Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Ramones, Jane's Addiction, Beck, Jimmy Buffett, No Doubt, Primus, Beastie Boys, Snoop Dogg, Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Chris Isaac. It's a pretty good collection. 2 LPs. It does run about $40. It says compilation, and from the charity albums, all label proceeds go to the Surfrider Foundation to help preserve our planet. So when you buy that, you're also giving money to a good cause. I think I mentioned this one. I'm not sure, but I'm going to mention it again. Neurotic Outsiders. This is Steve Jones of Sex Pistols, Duff and Matt from Guns N' Roses, and John Taylor from Duran Duran. And the reason I mentioned this was it's okay, sort of punk rock stuff, like from guys who were kind of in their middle age a little bit at the time. But I went to the show, and Billy Idol came out and sang 2 songs also. And he's not featured on the album, but still it's kind of an interesting super group. If you're into Guns N' Roses or the Sex Pistols, or even Duran Duran, you might want that. I'm surprised I had any of these left. There's a few. David Bowie's Ready, Set, Go. And this is a little bit later. It's live from 2003, and it was a radio performance in studio. Mostly the songs are from the reality tour and that album, which I kind of liked. I mean, and it has things like Hello Space Boy, and most of it are like songs that you won't really find the typical Bowie hits, but I kind of like that because it's like he was doing something sort of different. It's got covers, Pablo Picasso, Cactus, like Pixies stuff. Days, the Kinks cover, Ray Davies stuff. I always say Davies. It's spelled like Davies, but it's Davis. Robert Hunter and Tiger Rose Rarities. So Robert was a Grateful Dead lyricist, and this album actually features Jerry Garcia, Mickey Hart, and Donna Jean from Grateful Dead. And these are the rarities, so this is like alternate versions, or like versions that didn't make it to the original album. So you can hear some other performances. Yes, Live at the Rainbow. The only reason I'm showing this is because Yes is great, and I had some extra. I usually always have extra Yes because it always eventually sells out, and I always have to try and order more, and Yes is constantly popular. So Queen with these original Delane studio demos, and I mean Freddie Mercury was pretty on fire since from the beginning, and it does have 5 tracks, but still this is they've been newly mixed for better sound. And yeah, this was done for exclusive 12-inch vinyl for Record Store Day. Original multi-track masters. We do have a few of these left, so I don't want to say like, what happened to the Queen mania, but maybe people are sort of moving on from that. I don't know. It's sort of a rockier era of Queen too, so if you're into the more like kind of riffy side of things, and Brian May just played Coachella with Benson Boone. So Public Image, this is John Lydon's sort of re-debut after the Sex Pistols. And this is the unreleased US mix of their debut album, originally intended for release in September, October 1979. And they sort of scrapped it and did like the original British mix. But it's been very hard to get the US mix. And so if you're a Public Image fan, and they're one of the best like post-punk bands of that era, I think. Interesting stuff. Not for everybody, all right? But Jethro Tull and Songs from the Vault, 1975 to 78. This include rarities and outtakes as well. As many Tull records as I've sold over the years, you would think that more people would be like, oh, this is stuff that I haven't heard before. And some people got it and, and understood that. But there are a few copies of that left. And then finally here, a couple more things I want to show. The Kenny Dorham that I showed the CD of live at the Blue Morocco, Blue Bossa and the Bronx. This is Kenny from 1967, which is sort of a really great era for him. Back in the 60s. Mingus and the Buenos Aires concerts, and this is in Argentina. This is from 1977, which would have been the prime era that Joni Mitchell was constantly referencing Charles Mingus, to the point that she even named one of her albums Mingus. And it would have been this same era. So, and he's still out there, really killing it on the bass. It's funny how much she admired him, and then she used Jaco Pastorius on their records, and Bill Evans. And what would Record Store Day be without Bill Evans? This is Further Ahead, live in Finland, 1964 to 69. I know that there have been several Bill Evans collections that have come out, but really, it's hard to do much better than this guy if you're wanting any kind of jazz piano stuff, as he's one of the top 2 or 3, I think, jazz players out that ever have lived or recorded like that much stuff. So anyway, Bill Evans can never go wrong. All right. Well, thanks, guys. This video wasn't super long, but it was a little longer. I just wanted to kind of do a little bit of cleanup and say thank you so much again for everything that you've done. It really is very touching. The compliments, the amount of people. It was kind of a miserable day. It was cold and rainy. When I was driving in, it was snowing. So the people that were here overnight were here kind of while it was snowing out there. I mean, it shouldn't be like that. And of course, this Saturday, it's going to be like 80 degrees. So, it just happened to be the wrong week. Blame Jesus for making Easter a week later than it usually is. If it had been flip-flopped, Easter would have been the snowing morning, and you would have been waiting out in a nice temperate climate for Record Store Day. Thank God we have a long awning here, and maybe next year I'm going to think about possibly opening a little earlier if we ever get the snow again, so people can actually come in and wait. But on that note, there's so many new releases on the way, guys. I can't even there's no time to talk about it now, but in the next couple of weeks, you're going to be sort of I wouldn't say inundated, but there's going to be a lot of news coming out about, and a lot of releases to show you over the next couple months. So thanks again for all your support, and we'll see you next time. Peace. Have a great weekend. Happy Easter holiday or whatever you're celebrating. spring break for a lot of people. Be safe, and we'll look to see you soon. Take care. Bye.